Whoa, welcome back, everybody. We are here. What episode is this? This is episode, I want to say, look at it, because we've been doing this like very sporadically over the last number of weeks, and then we've also been recording a whole bunch of other stuff over the last number of weeks.
It's been crazy.
67.
67.
67.
That's a cool number.
I like it. You know what? I feel like something learns a Pokemon move at level 67, and I'm forgetting it. But that's why
it's got to be something crazy.
It's got to be something wild. Nonetheless, we are here. Of course, my name is Meelz. I'm here with the Platinum Shunna boy himself, Jeff.
Yes, sir. What's going on, man?
I've been having a great time over the summer trying to get into all this, different type of anime and all this other stuff and manga and stuff. But first of all, we want to thank you guys for choosing what we're talking about this episode. And I'll be honest with you, I'm quite surprised. You know what? I'm not surprised. Why am I surprised? I'm not surprised at all. What I want to say,
it, man.
No. I'm not even in terms of killing it. In terms of the movie selection, so we picked 4 movies.
Yes.
For everyone to watch. So
we already knew what was gonna happen.
We knew what was gonna happen. We might as well. We could have recorded this episode 2 weeks ago because we knew it was gonna happen. We picked 4 movies. We picked, of course, Akira. We picked Yu Yu Hakusho movie.
Yeah.
We picked the Cowboy Bebop movie, which is just called the Cowboy Bebop movie. We picked what was the last one? Hunter x Hunter movie. The first
Phantom Rogue.
Yeah, Phantom Rogue. So we picked those 4. All right. Obviously, if you look at it, I was thinking they would swing that way, knowing what you'd wanted. But you know what? Things happen. Akira is such an important, popular movie. It's like the most
real culture stuff. Yeah,
it's really the most important anime movie of all time. Maybe the most important anime kind of like thing of all time.
It changed everything for sure, which we'll get into.
100%. But you guys chose that, so we're talking about that today. But we couldn't do it alone. Obviously, we're still at the Summer at Kame House. Summer is winding down. It's actually kind of getting chilly on this island now. I'm thinking about it.
For you.
We're
still hot over here.
We're still at the Kame House. We're chilling. We're relaxing. Obviously, we've gotten some visitors. We've gotten Ricochet, WWE's Ricochet, which was fun. We got Cyrus, which is always a blast. We've had Jamal on just a very off the cuff. Hey, answer this phone call. We're calling you here. So we've had that. We've had Sachi, aka Chibi Thought, which you can follow on Twitter. Just an amazing last episode that we talked on The Promised Neverland.
She's incredible. She's incredible.
And she gave us the whole works in terms of how the cosplay thing works. Who we have next? Who's visiting the Kame House? He's landing like the androids right now.
Long time coming.
Long time coming, I would say, because I've been admiring, I think both of us have admired just kind of the things that he's done over the last number of years in terms of creating clothing, getting it out there, just taking full brand on his back and one that's like anime, fashion,
and it's not
streetwear.
It's not corny.
Yeah, not at all. So putting that entire thing on his back. And over the last number of years, I've personally seen his follower count grow from like the low hundreds to now it's got to be like 18K, 19K close to now. So I would like to introduce to our podcast, landing on the Kame House right now, Dom from Namiwear. Shout out to you, man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Oh my God. Thank you for being here, first of all.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the Lookout, man.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to be here, man.
Oh my God. Listen, there's so much stuff that we have to get into in this episode, especially talking about Akira, the movie. It's so important, so culturally significant, so a lot of things. But first, I think we would like just to talk to you about the whole Namiwear and how that came to be. And I know it's one of the most like, obviously like, everyone's going to ask you this from now on and probably have asked you in the past. But I would like to know personally, this isn't even for the people. This is personally for myself. How did you come up with the idea? How did you come up with the name? And what were your first kind of initial like thoughts and ideas for it?
So I have had to tell this story a lot of times. So I have always been into drawing and doing fashion and stuff like that. And I had a streetwear brand called Mimic before Namiwear, Mimic Clothing. And I would take like pop culture references and transform my logo into things that like reflected comics, anime, stuff like that. But it was more just t-shirts. It was more like I don't know if you guys have heard of Johnny Cupcakes or I'm trying to think of another good one. Like Johnny Cupcakes in the Hundreds are like two brands that I was really like pulled into streetwear with. Like those were kind of my big influences. So I had Mimic for a little while, maybe 5 years, and I was just getting ready to end it to do something else. And my friend hits me up and is like, yo, you should link up with my homie Johnny. Like he's about to do this new thing. He wants to do an anime streetwear brand. And I'm telling him like, you're perfect for the job. And I'm like, all right, like, well, I want to see what he's talking about. So we like do a couple phone calls and he's explaining the brand to me. And I'm like, bro, like I already do this right now.
Right.
I could get this set up like immediately. So we do like a couple calls and I do maybe 10 rough drafts like that same day and send them to him. And he's like, all right, we're doing this. It's going to be called Namiwear. We picked Namiwear because we wanted it to be wave, like wavy wear, basically.
Right.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's wavy. And the first logo was actually a W made out of water. But we switched it recently, so now we have like a wave pattern.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much how it came to be. Like it was just a phone call from a friend who saw what I was doing before, and he was like, "Yeah, let's make an anime brand."
I love it. Listen, it's tough. We've always said, Jeff and I have said, it's tough to create sort of anime streetwear that we
really is.
maybe it's just Jeff and I that we sort of find appealing in terms of from a standpoint of like streetwear that also it's like it's true to the anime, but it doesn't completely look corny.
It's not just
that was our main thing too. We really wanted to make something like that wasn't like nobody's running outside in a kimono.
right, exactly.
Where are you going to do that to?
If you are, I respect you, but like, yeah, it's not happening a lot. Like, even for me, it's like
the full like sweater that has like the Vegeta armor on it and stuff like that.
It's like, come on. It's to me, it's like I get it. Like you're trying to, represent Dragon Ball or whatever the case may be to like its full extent, but there is too much, and there is just like corny or I mean, I know you can walk into a Hot Topic, right, and grab a very basic anime tee and probably be happy with it for the most part, but like I'm looking for that just that stuff that's still stylish. You can throw it on the skate with it, you can go out whatever, and it looks nice and it's not corny, and it just and it still represents whatever you're into at that moment, whether it's AKIRA, Hunter x Hunter, whatever it is you're trying to work on. So that's really what it's about for me when we're trying to look for like clothing that represents anime. And it's one of the reasons why we wanted to connect with you, because your shit made sense, man. Like it's hard, you know what I'm saying? It has a good look to it. And yeah, me and Meelz definitely had that conversation a few times about just like, man, who's doing it, the right way.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people that are I don't think they're like designers. Like I went to art school. I did a lot of like different things before I decided like I wanted to make a clothing line. And I don't think it's like people who have that level of experience.
Right.
I think there's people that say like, oh, I'm a fan of anime. Like I want to have something that kind of relates to what I like, but not know how to necessarily make it like a good piece of clothing.
Right.
What would you say was the first, like, was that first wave really kind of the first things that you designed, or are there really like a bunch of stuff that was like scrapped on the floor? It was like, oh no, this is not gonna work. Oh, this is not gonna work. Like,
I'm trying to think. I think a lot of the stuff, like all of the first stuff we've done, has been like real surface level type of ideas, like stuff that I know people are gonna like right away. Before I get into any like crazy details or, you know, shows that a lot of people aren't really like looking for like that.
Right. What has been thus far like the most unforeseen, hardest part of the process that you did not think would be like tough? Because the entire creating and going through the beyond just being like a creator, now you're like a marketer as well, and now you're like, you know, beyond, you have to sell it to the world, you have to make these connections, you have to network. What was probably the most unforeseen, like hardest type of this entire process?
Honestly, it's been pretty easy. I'm not gonna lie.
Whoa,
Hey,
all
man,
right,
that's a
never
flex.
mind.
No, I'm about
Like,
to say, hey, there's no reason you can flex, man. If you did it and it was hard and it just hit quick, so be it. I mean, you
like
know.
I feel like a lot of the hard stuff I really went through by myself with my first brand.
Right.
Because I was doing it by myself. Like I didn't have any investor or anything like that. I had to kind of build that up from just ideas. Like I would put ideas online and people would buy them just because they liked the idea that I had.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of that. And I'm actually in school right now for my master's in business.
Awesome, dude.
So I've been in the marketing, you know, world for a while. And I think a lot of people just overthink that. It's easier to do it when you're being yourself. And I don't, I can't really teach being yourself to people, but
Yeah, that's real.
that is something that I think separates me from the people who don't know what they want.
Right. Absolutely.
Like I know exactly how I want to do the brand.
That's amazing. First of all, that's foresight that I don't think a lot of people have. Well, I think it definitely comes from your first brand and going through that entire trial process, because I know from the same thing with like Jeff and I, we'll go through the first time we tried to make merch for the Lookout. It was like the most, let's find the right shirt. Oh, we got to find the right design. Oh, we got to find the right thing. Is this going to work on this? Is this going to work on that? Because we have no idea what we were doing. But ultimately, we wanted to make something to share with the people who support us.
Not even just that, you know, when we started this podcast, it was strictly based on Dragon Ball, you know, and Super, and like going forward with that and being able to figure out how we were going to stretch that into talking about other things and make, you know, the Lookout not just Dragon Ball. Like even that process, it's the same situation, man. It's like, and then as far as you saying, you know, just being yourself and pushing your brand how you want, I think a lot of times some of these things may fail because they decide to switch up their own method and their own personality just to, you know, help create and format something that it's not organic anymore, because, you know, you decide to kind of like change up a little bit just to make it work for yourself.
Yeah.
It's very important. Well, speaking about like staying true to yourself, we have to ask a question we ask all first-time guests on the show. What is the first anime that you've watched, and what animes do you keep up with now?
First anime, and I think it was Dragon Ball Z. I think that's the first thing that I seen as a kid.
Right. It's
Nothing
definitely
that that's the one right
it's
there.
It's
If you're
usually the same thing.
American, you're American,
It was
or
on TV, so I think that
you know, it was easy.
Yeah.
How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 29.
Okay, yeah, he up there with us then.
Yeah. We were on the same age. So definitely, we know about that entire era and that time and Toonami, and even it being on like local television and all this other stuff with the theme music. What animes do you keep up with now? If you do keep up with now, considering your incredibly busy schedule.
What do I watch now? I watch a little bit of My Hero. I'm not all the way caught up, but I like My Hero a lot. I started One Piece finally after.
Oh wow!
Been on my
time, right?
That one. They're like, you gotta watch One Piece. You're not You don't know what you're missing. I was like, all right, man, I'll watch.
That's what they always say. That's what they always say, man.
But there's so much that, like, at this point, it's like there's so much of it. It's like, do I really?
Man.
It's a lot, and I don't even know how. But I'm at like episode 50, and I don't feel like I watched anything yet.
That's how.
All right, so that's going to be a very interesting thing because we have to watch One Piece eventually in the future as well, which I'll speak on my half. I haven't watched any of One Piece at all. So is there anything that you feel like in this 50 episodes, anything that's really popped out to you just in general, that's just striking to you? Doesn't even have to be like the story, like the art or anything or
all right, so I remember One Piece growing up, and I really hated how it looked on TV.
Me too, man. Me
so
too,
ugly.
bro.
I don't want to watch this. And it's about pirates. I hate pirates. I eventually, like, because it came to Netflix, I turned it on, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it one more try. Like, I'm older now. Let me see what they're talking about.
Right.
And I turned it on, and I see like every character has like crazy outfits, like all the time they're changing their outfits. Except like Luffy, he doesn't change too much, but you'll see like every single character has their own clothes on, and I was like, wow, I've never like really cared about details like that, but it really
works, right?
Impressive. Like,
yeah, it's hard.
You build like all these worlds and everybody is their own person. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
you don't see that a lot, especially in like anime. Well, anime, I mean, they do some changes, but then it just goes back to what they wore originally. You know, yeah. I love seeing the switch up, you know, for characters, especially like when you're talking about big animes.
Right. Yeah. No, it the only thing, I mean, I guess it's anime inspired. The one that used to really appeal to me in terms of like characters changing their clothes all the time, because I think it's like a small little it used to happen a lot in the Boondocks would happen actually all the time, and I love that part of it because it's like, you know, you don't catch them all in the same thing. Yeah, they're real people, and that's what, you know, it should feel like. But, you know, obviously, I get why they keep the same thing. It saves a lot of time, save a lot of costs, save a lot of creativity that you don't want to.
You know, every once in a while, I want to see Killua in a different hat or a different tee, and I see it sometimes.
Well, listen, fun. When Kurapika pulled up with that different, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Hey, you know,
little blue action, little magenta action.
Yu Yu Hakusho when they change clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
100%. Is that your favorite anime?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I feel you. The new jackets, they go incredibly hard, my friend.
Oh yeah, I haven't announced it yet, but we've got the Hiei and the Kuwabara ones coming.
Oh my god!
Okay, slow down. We're giving us the exclusive real quick. Can we post that?
Hiei Hive is the Hiei Hive inside of me is.
We waited like so long because I was like, everyone's gonna want Hiei. We got to make it.
Yeah, that's real.
That's what everyone's gonna ask. Everyone's.
Oh my god!
And I think it's the best thing we've done.
I want to ask you, man, is there any loops you have to jump to even recreate those type of things, like within these animes? Like, or is there any kind of hoops you got to jump through, or is it more like because it's still your original work?
So what I really tried to do for this brand, because I know there's like a lot of, you know, people that have their hands in the pots as far as owning things, and
of course.
You know, different companies have a lot of different titles, so it'd be like a lot of work to reach out to everyone. But we do pretty much try to keep an original product. It's not really anything with we never use the characters, like the face or anything. We never use their pictures, and all the stuff that we're making is things that don't exist.
Just inspired.
Like, they're inspired and they don't exist in the real world right now. Right. So it's almost parody. So it does keep safe in that sense. And I know I get question like all the time. Everyone's like,
Like, I
how
was just curious, like,
are you doing this without,
yeah,
getting
yeah.
Because my mind.
Yeah, in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm thinking, man, they got to be jumping some loops here.
Yeah, it's a tricky process,
Right.
but
No.
I'm trying to like kind of get away from doing exact pieces in the animes and make like more original pieces kind of surrounding that.
Right. No, that's amazing. Gosh, so much. I mean, let's kind of transition into the topic of the day, which is Akira, the movie that was voted on for us to talk about today. The entire movie. All right. Let's talk about your first experience watching the movie. Let's start with Dom. Do you remember when, and do you remember your first time and how you felt about the movie when you saw it for the first time?
It was last year. I finally sat down. It's the same with One Piece. Everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it." I was like, "Man, it's old."
It is old.
Yeah.
It's very old. There's nothing wrong with just seeing it last year for sure. Yeah.
It's older. It's one of the rare anime movies that's older than everybody in this room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for real.
It's like super old. I did appreciate like, the art style and everything, but I wasn't like a super big fan. I was like, wow, this is what people wanted me to watch. Like, especially after like having something like My Hero exist,
Right?
Like, real like strong, emotional movies versus like something like this. It's a little bit older. I don't know. I didn't feel too too excited about it.
Or too attached to it or anything like that.
It's something that I had to do.
Yeah, it's 100%. A lot.
It's
one of those, hey, if you're into anime, this is obviously like the Godfather. Like, you need to watch this because of its importance and its impact on the culture. I know for me, like, I was way too young probably to even like, for me to like, I probably shouldn't even saw it, but it was, only reason I even saw it was because we had it on bootleg. And I was still in LA, Meelz, by the way. Like, this happened, like, I was a youngin', like maybe like 12, 13, bro. Like, very, very young. My uncle Andre had it on like a blank, like, there's nothing, no promo, no nothing. And when you watch it as like, 13-year-old kid, it's weird, man. Like, I'm from the hood, like, I'm from LA, like, I'm from Inglewood, California. This was like one of these things where it's like, I didn't really, there is no attachment to it personally at that age. Like, I'm just thinking this is the weirdest shit that I have ever seen in my life. And then I think I watched it again, like, like I told you, like a few years ago. They released it, they did like a special viewing in theaters for like 2 days. I think it's coming back to IMAX. It's supposed to come out to IMAX this year, I thought, but obviously with the way the world is. So my first experience was a weird one because I didn't understand it at that age,
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of the older animes. Like, they're real kind of out there.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, so you say that the first time you've seen this last year. The first time I saw this was last night in preparation for this podcast. But I mean, I think someone told me, beyond having to do it for watch a show, because I would have seen it eventually, I think, at some point. Definitely. But I remember, because I work with a lot of like construction management in my like real life, real day job type of thing. So I actually was having this meeting with this architect, and he saw that I had the Spider-Man. Gosh, why is the movie forgetting me? I just watched it 2 weeks ago.
You said the same thing when we talked about it last time.
Yeah, the Spider-Man. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. There we fucking go. Yeah. So I have the art book for that on my desk at work. Because I love the art style. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm in love with the art and just the colors and everything of how they created it. I kind of want to see. So I bought the book. It was like $35. It took mad long to come because it was back ordered, because everyone loves this movie, apparently.
Everybody loves that book.
Yeah. So I bought it. I have it on my desk. I look at it from time to time. One of the architects came in and he was like, yo, can I see that book? And he was like, he's going through it and he's flipping to it, and it's like, oh, I saw this movie with my son. It's so amazing. It reminds me of Akira in terms of like the very precision of how they kind of did everything, and the colors and the influences and the style and all this other stuff like that. And he was like, have you ever seen Akira? And I was like, no. And he's like, you haven't seen it? Wow. And I'm like, mind you, he's got to be like 20 years older than me, maybe 30 years older than me at this point. So it's like, yeah, of course you've seen the movie. But I was like, no, I haven't seen the movie. And he was like, no, you got to watch it, man. Like, you got to make sure you watch it. So I had always planned on watching this one day. Little did I know that the Lookout fan base would be like, okay, today's the day that you're watching it.
Yeah.
But it's really, I think it was a lot to take in and a lot to like absorb, and because there were so many moving parts to everything. And I think also I think if they made this movie it's hard to say if they made this movie in 2020, because I don't even think the movies in 2020 wouldn't be made if they didn't make this movie.
yeah. A lot of things came from this.
Or the style or in the kind of how they deliver this. So it's a very influential movie in that aspect. So it's hard to say like if they made this movie in 2020, as if to say like everything else influenced this. But I think if they maybe
I'm not
like,
sure if there's ever been a budget like this for an anime besides like Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
not at this time, no.
Right. Especially in 1988, but the equivalent money spent on this movie was $10 million in '88 for an anime. Yeah. So it's like that alone it blows your mind. But that's why it looks so great. They had full creativity over it. And the animation is flawless.
Yeah. What would you say, Dom? What would you say it was like the first thing? Because you've created a bubble jacket inspired by this anime. Was the fashion one of the things that kind of like stood out mostly about this thing?
Yeah, I know like a lot of cosplayers and a lot of people who love anime like this movie. And I was like, man, I see like what they have on the market as far as cosplay. And it's like a real cheap jacket. Like you probably only get to wear it to the convention and that's it.
Right.
I was like, okay, I could easily flip this into like a winter jacket.
Yeah, and it looks hard. Shout out to you can see Sachi Chibi thought she's also modeled the jacket at some point.
Yeah. She kills it.
It's very, very fire. But yeah, I think a lot of things in this movie, what struck out the most to me, because before actually seeing this movie, all you hear is about the history and the influences and all this stuff about the movie. So it's like, okay, that makes it the reason you must see it. But there's so much stuff actually going on in the movie that I think it's kind of hard to keep track on your first try. And then I also think in terms of like now, in terms of how anime movies are, I guess, created, it's weird because this was from a manga and the movie was made before the manga actually finished, so there was a lot of loose ends. So it's like the movie plays into the manga finishing, but the manga is really supposed to tell the thing of the movie. It's very weird. But there's like a lot of like, it's like my main con against this movie would probably be this like kind of poor storytelling aspect in terms of like getting the full depth of the characters before they move on to the next thing.
Right.
Because I think everything is just kind of happening and you see like this weird, the first thing you see is like one of those espers and you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? And you're like, that's supposed to be a thing. And then you kind of like loosely learn about the history, but I think you mostly appreciate it once after you do all that research and stuff. And like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, the impact definitely shows after. Like, again, it's a lot to take in. It's a 2-hour, 5-minute film. It's a lot to take in. It's major. It's kind of creepy.
It's hard to get me to sit down for a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, in general, right? So it's like, but it's creepy. It has this psychological thing, and it throws you off at times. But when you do read up on it and you see why it's just so renowned and so loved and has like, even major artists who always show respect to it. And like you said, there's not really like all the fashion things that came out for it were like extremely exclusive to like a high end brand, a very high end brand. It's like, very expensive. It's hard to get your hands on, which is another reason why I appreciate, what you do and other brands like the things that you guys do, because anime fashion is so good, but
In the anime.
in the anime, right? Yeah, it's like there hasn't been like high fashion red carpet, like fashion week type stuff. Like there is really no. I'm sure they get inspiration without saying it, quietly, but like it's just not being done the right way. And to see like brands like Namiwear really do it it's exciting for the culture, because especially being Black kids, from America, because us, we can point out something fly and with the snap of our fingers. You know what I'm saying? It's really simple. It's really easy. Like, oh, that's hard. Boom. And then you're just taking that and making it your own. So yeah, man, I commend you for that. But this movie it's a lot, and unless you really do research on it, it is hard to see the impact.
Yeah. It shouldn't be that way for a movie. Like I shouldn't have to do the research to appreciate the movie, but
this was the 80s,
you appreciate
man. The 80s.
Yeah, I think there's so much different like layers and spectrums of actually covering this movie. One is like the impact on like modern day anime. So the impact on modern day anime is like everything, because this was the first anime movie that really kind of like invaded the Western hemisphere. Western civilization was the first one that was kind of released. Not the first, I won't say the first one. It wasn't the first one. It was the most notable one that opened up a lot of doors to what we got in the 90s and late 90s, like with the Dragon Balls and all this other stuff like that. Dragon Ball is its own separate phenomenon, but the phenomenon would not be as it wouldn't have been as accepted if it wasn't for Akira. So that's a major thing. One, you could say it's influence on sci-fi, because there's things like Stranger Things, The Matrix, Last Jedi. So many different things are from this movie alone, and saw it and probably like, oh my god, it has such an effect on that. Like two separate the fact that they put two genres together and it has an effect on two completely different genres is like crazy.
Well, imagine when, even the live action situation, I know the movie's been like pushed back from a live action perspective for a while now, like decades. And like, I'm not saying we need it or we don't need it. I'm just saying, like, imagine the world, like, it's I think 2019 Tokyo. It's like the things that they're portraying in this film, they actually do stand the test of time as far as like the way that the world is. I know this is a bit extreme, but they have things in there that do. It's kind of spooky, like
it mirrors actual real life. Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah,
it really does.
The one thing is, I guess it's more so how the movie starts with that the telling of like that big ass explosion that ruins everything. That kind of mirrors World War II and what happened there. And actually everything in this movie is kind of playing off of the whole World War II. The nuclear bomb drops. Japan is affected for maybe like the next like 30 years, 40 years. They aren't really able to actually like build up an actual like rising economy until like the late 80s or like 90s, based on everything that kind of happened there. But it shows kind of the effects of like the major like destruction, the effects it can have on family, culture, and stuff like that, because they're still living this like post-apocalyptic. I tried to say it before I started this podcast, and then I couldn't get it, and then I was like, I'll get on the post-apocalyptic. There we go. So it's a lot of that, and it tries to explain that whole theme as well, and I think it does a good job, at least sort of portraying it from an entertainment standpoint, but also having that real history where you're able to be like, oh wow, this is kind of retelling kind of what happened in a type of way. Beyond that, the movie just in music, Kanye West is Stronger, Lupe Fiasco, Tetsuo and Youth, like just so many influence. That is ultimately going to be the impact of the movie, of just like, this is the most important anime related thing of all time. I think that's kind of more than the story, which is like weird, because I think movies, and I think I'm someone who's heavy on the actual story itself. That like the story needs to be amazing. That's why I love My Hero so much, because I think the story is incredible. I think just them telling it from arc to arc and just like slowly unfolding and slowly like blossoming in the story and able to, we talked about it on various Lookout episodes before, being able to capture 20 different people and tell a story and still have it make sense.
Special. Yeah, you gotta applaud the storytelling, right, if you can do that.
Right. But with this one, I think the story, it takes a little bit of backseat to the impact, but the story itself is quite, it's definitely interesting. Apparently, the reason why the movie is the way it is because of the manga, and it's actually like, they say that this movie takes place, it's the first half of the first volume of the manga and the second half of volume 6 of the manga, and there's still like 3-4 volumes, which is why I was like, damn, like, this movie feels like it's missing, if it misses gravity to me, because a lot of things just start happening. We don't have, if it was a series, if it was a long-standing series, you get the impact. You'd probably, we'd go through the whole backstory. Demon Slayer likes to do this a lot, where they go through the backstory of all the villains and like we get the backstory of the colonel, we get the backstory of the scientist, we get the backstory of the mayor or whatever the fuck it is. Like, we probably get all of that, and it probably is within the manga. I mean, the manga's already available. I'm thinking of actually reading it because there's so much more that goes on within it than in the actual movie itself.
It's one of the first manga I've ever read. Yeah.
Really?
Well, because it was the easier one to get a hold of. That was the one that was printed everywhere, like the special editions. Where it's just all one volume.
Right.
Those are the types that came out so much.
No, you're probably right. Damn. Never even thought of it. I never even touched the AKIRA, but okay, I always go.
They're out there, man.
I always go check what's the latest thing in Demon Slayer or what's my new favorite one now, Chainsaw Man. But yeah, it's the entire kind of story of this thing. Do you guys even remember any favorite parts of this movie that you have that just kind of stand out?
I think the bike slide is just like probably the most iconic scene.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like using it, so it's real easy to like pull to the front of my memories.
Right.
The dream scene, where he's in bed, and those what is it? The espers? Oh God,
yeah, they're espers. Yeah,
that shit is creepy, dude. Still to this day.
I think a lot of this. I think when he finds out,
disturbing. There's some disturbing scenes. Like,
you know what was wild? That I don't think that they would do. Actually, I don't know if they wouldn't do this. I mean, they do. Anime kills a lot of people. When Tetsuo's girlfriend dies and he accidentally kills her and is just like, oh, she's dead now. That's what I thought was the wildest. That's what I'm talking about. Like, story needs to be evolved upon, because like
they just said, okay, she's dead. Let's move on.
Yeah. You see her, he tries to save her earlier in the movie. Actually, a real brutal scene where it's like he like rips her top off and then punches her in the face, which is crazy. I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I was like, wow. But he can't save her because he's going through this whole like metamorphosis and his powers are thinging and all this other stuff like that. And then the movie didn't really do a good job of me of like also explaining like, oh, these powers just suddenly happened. Like they just came out of nowhere because of the bike crash. I was like, wait, he has powers now? Like he didn't have like latent powers before?
Yeah, they could have explained. They could have definitely explained that more. I think a lot of murder scenes, when he kills the 2 hospital employees as well, like that shit is like disturbing. Like those are all really, they just did it really well. And if you're watching that in the 80s, I could imagine how people would react,
like another one of my favorite parts is when they actually right before he kills his girlfriend, where he's going through the entire, first of all, the fight with K, fight with K, I thought was incredible. For as short of a time that it was, I thought it could have been longer. I think if it had been modern anime, it definitely would have been stretched out for maybe like another 10 minutes with like mad 1080p 60 4K graphics and shit and flying through like the universe and all this other stuff like that. So I think that would have been, but I still think the fight was great and I can see how it influenced a lot of things. I've definitely seen the part where Tetsuo cannot control the power that he has anymore, and then it starts like morphing into this giant blob of shit.
I like that.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen it so many times in just different works of art. Like I've just seen it in a million things. It's been in Digimon, it's been in South Park, it's been in all these other things like that. But like the whole like cybernetic arm type of thing, even the details for that, when you watch it and like everything, the art in this movie is incredible, and it's so fluid and it's so different. It reminds me of parts. I saw this after, obviously I saw it after Yu Yu Hakusho, but there's a real like episode in Yu Yu Hakusho, that whole hospital fight thing, that I love because it's just as fluid and it's just as like the choreography is kind of crazy, and the scenes and the angles and all these other stuff are just kind of like beyond. I think that fight is one of my favorite fights in anime from looking at it. But this one too, I think a lot of things in this anime is when it deals with art and when it deals with the structure and when you deal with the background, you could take a snapshot of any part of this movie and it's art. And I think that's what's so incredible about it, and what'll make it last forever. Let's see. I mean, they're talking about the live action part of this movie. I don't think we'll ever get a live action part.
I actually think it's gonna happen, dude. I just feel like it's the budget of it all. It's the, you know, everything is coming.
Live action to be another lesson to Hollywood on like why they're terrible at casting things, or like why they're
Meelz. Listen, we're coming up on like, I'm not saying the superhero trend is never going to end, but there's going to be a point where we wake up and Hollywood is anime. You know it's going to happen because the stories are too good. You know, it's too many volumes. Like I know, like Gundam is coming as well. Like there's just things that are just like, it's too easy to pass up on. Like you gotta go for it. Like Hollywood's gonna throw that money. They're gonna throw the money at some of these creators.
Like Michael B. Jordan talking about Naruto and
You know, once our culture gets a hold of something and like we make it known that we're into it, you already know how the world follows. You know how it goes. This is we all know, we've seen it happen, you know. So but when it comes down to fashion, vehicles, you know, jewelry, like all those type of things, television is the same way, you know. We run the world in that aspect. So pushing things like anime, Hollywood's gonna take it by the horns, man. And it's gonna, I really believe it's gonna go. Now I don't mean I'm gonna be happy about it, but
no, I think the reason why it hasn't happened is because every time they feel like they're going to start it, they feel like it's going to lose money. Yeah. Not even on the story, but on the backlash for it, because I understand where they're coming from. And we looked at it from the My Promised Neverland live action thing. Okay, in Japan, they have all the characters. They're Japanese. First of all, it's a Japanese created thing. So they have all their characters. They're Japanese. We get it. We talked about the whole Krone thing of like, why is she Japanese and not black? You couldn't find a Blasian person at all. That's crazy. We talked about that, and we were essentially like, okay, well, they're making it for their audience. I feel like America, when we try to make it for our audience, it's just going to come off incredibly tone deaf. Like, I read one of the reasons why this movie is so slowing, because Warner Brothers has had this since 2002. So it's been almost 20 years that they've had the rights to this movie, and it has not been made as of yet. Was because of Ghost of the Shell.
Ghost of the Shell ruined a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
When they had Scarlett Johansson as the main character and still like full Japanese name and everything. So that kind of like left a sour taste. I mean, there's so many different live actions. I mean, Dragon Ball Evolution is just the worst.
Let's not even
it's the most disrespectful movie I think I've seen ever in my life. But I don't know when we'll ever see the live action, but if we do, it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to just visually.
The money will be there. It won't be a cheap thing. Yeah, it'll be something.
It needs to, because you can't half-ass AKIRA. Like you can't. Like
there's no
all this other thing.
That's the good thing about it. Like if it happens, you know it's going to happen with some type of quality. And like even to make this manga a film, you know, it had to be 100% rights to even doing it. Like the creativity had to be there. So I think that's also one of the other problems is bringing it to Hollywood is, what do you decide to keep in this film and what do you decide to take out of the film? Because like I said, there's a lot of brutal, disturbing films, but if they leave it how it was made from an anime perspective and bring it to the real world with real actors with a high budget, I mean, we could be looking at like the start of what I was saying, you know, which is basically anime kind of hitting a wall in Hollywood and really just taking over that realm because of the storytelling.
No, you're right. You're right. This movie, the entire through the beyond, you know, the things that I've said about my, you know, thoughts about just these various parts and how it could have did. I think ultimately the movie, it holds up pretty well. It's just like a historical artifact. Like it just is. It's just ultimately from start to finish. It's the most. If I saw this in 1988, my brains would be on the floor right now. Like if it would be, you know, the only thing I remember from like anything of the late 80s, and I wasn't even born in the 80s, nor do I think this actually might have been like a 60, 70 thing that talked about the future, was like the Jetsons, and that's a Hanna-Barbera friggin' thing. And
right.
I think we're past the point of where the Jetsons are, and we still don't have flying cars or anything. We're past the point of where this movie is, and we still don't have. I mean, we got some fly shit, but not as fly as.
Yeah, this is supposed to be 2019, so 2019 Tokyo.
The Marty McFly shoes yet? We're past that.
I know.
we're so past everything like that. So it, you know, but ultimately, I think the movie itself, it's going to hold up. It's a historical artifact. The themes of it strong. The backstory of it strong. It lends from real life, which adds a little bit more to the depth of this movie. The characters in it, I think they could have been fleshed out a little bit more. But obviously, this is a 2-hour movie and not a fucking, you know, full anime series where they would probably do that. But should they make if they in 2020 they decided to make a whole anime series based on AKIRA, would you guys watch it? Based from this movie.
I'm sure I would, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't think they'd ever do that. They'd give us a Netflix live action miniseries before they do that, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd watch it.
It'd be tough because there's not much. It's one of those masterpiece things that we discuss. You know, it's just it's done. It's what it is. Like that's why I'm not sure if it ever happens. It's going to be on another scale of real actors, and you know they'll just stay away from the animated thing per se. And when it hits IMAX and 4K, Meelz, Dom, hit the theaters. We might as well just go see it.
With that said, first of all, once again, thank you for appearing on the show.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, truly.
Thanks for having us.
Where can they go find you? Where can they go follow you? Where can they go obtain all this beautiful art and merchandise that you're creating?
Namiwear.com and Namiwear on Instagram, I think are only like active anythings.
Right. The Instagram page is popping. There's a lot of people who have, you know, Zeno, who we've had on the show, has very much flexed very strongly in this merchandise. I feel like he flexed in it before he got actually on Demon Slayer. So I don't know if he was like, you know, I don't know if he was trying to put it into the air. I don't know if you were just helping visualize him, because when he did, you know, appear on our show, he was like, yes, I tried to go for Tanjiro and didn't get it. But nonetheless, he was on the show, but you can clearly see where he's going because he's wearing the Namiwear Tanjiro sort of a, you know, jacket. So that's amazing. A lot of people, you know, Chibi thought we've talked about this, you know, everyone is sort of, a lot of people model for this. A lot of people show off their things. I love all the stuff that you do with, you know, if you do any more My Hero stuff, I love it. The Yu Yu Hakusho line thus far has been incredible. The fact that you told us there's a Hiei thing coming out has now got me so more excited. But I kind of felt like it was happening. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. And Kubara at the same time. We're gonna drop both.
Right. Boom. Amazing. You can follow him there. You can follow us at The Lookout RNC on Twitter, on Instagram, on everything. You can follow me at Meelz TV on Twitter. You can follow Jeff at Old Newsboy on Twitter. You can follow everything. Make sure you stay subscribed. Actually, you know what? Let's end on this note. We actually have a surprise for you guys next week. Next week, and this is the first time we're announcing this, and this is the first time anyone will hear this. Next week, we have a very special surprise on the Lookout RNC page. It will be My Hero Academia Week on the Lookout page.
That's right.
Here's what that entails. We have a very special interview featuring one of the editors of My Hero Academia's manga that's going to be on Big Eyes. So you guys can look out for that. That's going to be incredible. And then both Jeff and I, every day for the next week, we will be talking about My Hero Academia Season 3, the biggest season that they've ever had thus far, which features the fight between All Might and All for One. We'll also be doing a lot of different stuff on the social pages. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow things. Who knows? You might catch something if we decide to give something away. You might catch something if we decide to do some sort of contest, some sort of trivia, some sort of thing. But we're going to do a whole My Hero Academia week on the Lookout page. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you stay tuned, stay ready, stay blessed, and I guess stay plus ultra. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.